Welcome to the 60 at 60 Art Under the Influence exhibition and artist presentation conversation. We're going to be pretty informal, but we have Roderic Southall, my co-cons.
I'm like them. I guess I'm in the way front. I'm not as afraid of those of you as those in the way back. So we do want to seriously invite you to come up a bit. Come up a bit in fellowship. Don't be afraid. You've been doing it most of the day. Hop up. Come on. Come on. Let us pressure you. Come on up to the front.
Good job.
All right. We've got some takers. All right. All right. Go ahead.
I worked with Roderic for several months. You can tell we had a lot of fun. 60 at 60 came about because we wanted to see what alums were doing for the last 60 years, particularly those who had interests in art as an artist or interest in art just as a viewer, a lover of art that they have in their home. So we sent out a request to send us your art, whether it's ones that you created or a piece that's meaningful that you would be willing to share with us. And we didn't know how many we would get. We didn't know what we would get. We didn't put any kind of caveats on any of it. And we got exactly what we needed. If you've been through the gallery area, you can see that we've gotten sculptural work, we've gotten visual work, we've gotten poetry, we've gotten, everything. And from alums, from staff, from students, and our own president. So we're glad that you came today, and we will get started. Eric Huck is going to read a poem to us that he wrote some time ago. He graduated in 1973. And then we have Dawn Carlson-Kahn, who is a liturgical artist, and she graduated in 97. And then Doug Abbott, who is a sculpturalist, a metal sculpturalist, and he graduated in 2010. So we've got kind of a broad range. So let's get started. Eric?
Nice to be here on the 60th anniversary of United Seminary, which is also, for me, the 50th anniversary of my graduation. The poem that I'm going to read is one of the four that are in the hall out there. This is a poem about an event that occurred in my hometown of Canby, Minnesota, when I was in the 9th grade. It's called A Glove for Johnny, a glove. A glove for Johnny, a small frame house across the tracks on the edge of town. Father, sister, brother, that was it. One spring afternoon, too near the wood stove, a kerosene can exploded. Johnny caught fire, ran outside, his shirt aflame. For weeks he lay in the hospital, skin scorched from off his back. Our church youth group bought him a baseball glove. We were only 15. Afternoons I sat silent in his bare room, the odor of raw burnt flesh seeping into memory. What could I say? What could I do? Then summer took him away, and I, without knowing, became a minister.
I have loved these past gatherings this year at United. The past, present conversations, the language has changed, the humor has not. And I'm grateful for that. And when I started UTS in '89, the focus was on storytelling, everybody telling their story, which it probably still is. But I entered this institution as a midlife wanderer after our girls left home. I had moved 10 times in 12 years with my Navy pilot husband, and then moved to Minnesota and worked full-time with him for years. And then we realized it was my turn to explore. I just took one class at a time, feeling called to go back for just one more, and met Cindy Beth sitting in Wilson's Theology in the Arts class. And then in the spring of 1994, Carolyn Pressler invited for the first time people to do a project as their final instead of a test or a paper. Her invitation changed my life. My right brain tipped in an instant, and I saw the Old Testament in a spiraling circle. She asked me to show it to the class, and I felt like a fourth grader when I brought it in front of the class. And I want you to know that at my advanced age, I still feel like a fourth grader. I call this covenant. The moment of creation, the birds of the air going into the Noachic. Oh, it's upside down. The flood leading into the stylized rainbow, the Abrahamic covenant, I will make of your generations as the stars in the sky, the Mosaic covenant, the parting of the sea into the promised land, the Davidic with the building and the fall of the temple, and the diaspora going to serve other kings and in other countries. And there you have the Old Testament in 26 inches. So this was my birthplace as a liturgical artist. If my studio were to catch on fire, I would grab this first. The evolving covenants between God and the people of Israel. Cindy Beth helped me write my first artist statement with Stephen Haddon, and I did a graduation art show with him down the classroom hallway. What a gift. Two images that popped into my mind this morning were two posters that were at UTS back then. One by James Nelson, a simple black and white image of an embrace, and the words in red, God has promised to make better lovers of us all. Do you remember that? And the other was, ministry isn't just in the pulpit anymore, and listed columns of different professions. Some things don't change. So I am a commissioned minister of liturgical art at Robbinsdale Parkway, UCC. Liturgical art, simply the work of the people. It's all about making meaning together. And I am called to create, aren't we all? Each of us sharing our gifts in the body of Christ. I love creating community art because it reflects being part of something larger than ourselves, visually, or as Wilson would say, visual theology. And I do this work to enhance worship, to inspire, and to make a difference. I do this to strengthen the community, those who go out and protest with our blessing. Is Justin here? Hey, there, yeah. We go to the same church, and it's wonderful being in community with him. Another of my UTS mentors was Madeline Sue Martin, who taught us about ritual and meaning in a class called Music in the Life of the Church. We couldn't even take notes. We weren't allowed. It was all experiential. She asked me during her illness to make her funeral palls in 3 pieces, one for each of her children, in reds, purples, and fuchsias, the colors for the Spirit for Madeline Sue. And of course, I had people at United stitch the binding on them, the binding and the blessing. She invited me to do that. It's all about community. She also made sure I had several interactions with the liturgical artist, Nancy Chin. And I still remember our conversation over dinner, and Nancy saying, asking me, do you need your work or the work of others you're working with to be perfect? And that was important to remember when I create. So when I do lead a community art project, it includes activities and inexpensive materials where people can simply make their mark. It's not about perfection, it's about showing up. The fabric for the communion cloth we use at Robbinsdale Parkway, now UCC, was created during worship, painted by the community at tables, serving communion to one another, and then later made into one round cloth for our communion table in the sanctuary, as well as runners for the tables in the fellowship hall, connecting the sacred meal with the ordinary meal, which is also sacred. An ancient saying that guides my work is to hear is to forget, to see is to remember, and to do is to learn. So when we create together, we are doing hospitality, we are doing evangelism, we are playing together and getting to know each other better, and it's all good. I have created many clergy stoles, and my process is always the same. In my studio, I ask about their journey into ministry, what they want to say theologically, and how we are going to say that visually. And then I commission them to talk to people about the symbols or designs they have chosen, especially to the children, like in a children's time. And I see several faces in this room with people I have co-created. Carolyn, Norma Ray, Garth, and Andrea. And each one, I would have never thought their thoughts, I would have never created those images without their input. And so for me, it's a gift every time, and I love it. I have learned to trust myself in the process of creating because I am always doing something new and different. Knowing that this domino has to fall before I know how I'm going to manage making the next domino fall. I am a master of nothing except being playful and trusting, along with the Creator, the Holy One, who has called us all to create. Art is problem solving for me. Isn't that what we do in community, especially after COVID? Trust the answers will come. A previous president of United said art is the primary language of God, and I agree. I often ask people these questions when viewing art or nature or whatever they are creating. What do you see? What do you feel? And what do you know? And that has always been helpful to me and others. What I know is that when I finish a stole or a project with a church, I feel my life is more complete. Creating has been a healing force in my life, and I hope I have helped it be so for others. And at my advancing age, I would like to do more mentoring. I love to talk about liturgical art at churches and inspire the people to do more together on their own. And I am always available on phone or whatever to give you ideas that are inexpensive and playful. And call me if you have any questions about that kind of thing. It's a wonderful way of coming back together, especially after the COVID years. And as Isabel Nelson said earlier on Zoom, I am more myself because of being here, and I thank you.
That was one kind of influence United had. What influence did it have for you, Doug? You can use the hand mic right there.
This one?
Yes.
Okay. Well, it's very clear to me when I came to United that the program in theology and the arts spoke to my identity, my primary identity as an artist, which has been my entire life. So what really drew me was a workshop I had taken in spiritual geographies, the Summer Institute in the Arts. And I'd been searching for a way either to understand, I guess, my art making process in a deeper way. I understood it as a spiritual aspect of my life, but I didn't have the language or the knowledge or the skill to really put it all together. It was in that workshop that I got a glimpse of the program Theology and the Arts and met Cindy Beth. And it just immediately, I was like, yes, this is where I need to be going. I'd been, every few years, I would get my portfolio together to apply for an MFA program, and I would get so far, and I would stop, and I think, well, I don't want additional art instruction. I've got enough art instruction at this point in my life. What I want is the language to articulate my creative process and how it's a spiritual process. And I often, when I'm in the zone, the creative flow of creating work, the world will just disappear. And as someone, I have a pretty profound panic disorder, so sometimes the world gets really too much for me. Often it's just too much. So that envelope, that space where just the art is speaking, literally, it speaks, I listen. And it's not a product of having a panic disorder. I'm not crazy. But what I've learned is to listen to the art. My ego, I tell my ego to sit and just take a kind of secondary role. And once the creative process starts, the work will really guide me. And I can lose, 6, hours, and I can lose track of, when I was working on my senior practicum, I guess this is my pieces for my senior exhibit and thesis, I was welding in winter in an unheated garage, and I would go out about maybe 9 p.m. and I'd start working, and my feet would get numb and sore from the cold of the garage floor. And the friend I was living with at the time would kind of come out and check on me and see if I was okay, like at 11, are you coming back in? Oh yeah, I'll be in soon. And 3 o'clock in the morning, I'd still be out there, not realizing that much time had passed, or even how much my feet were hurting or how cold I was. And being cold takes a lot of energy out of you. And that's really what the program, and I would also say that in my earlier years, my career, I was a graphic designer, and there's always this kind of worry about where's my next idea, my next great concept going to come from, and what am I going to do on the day that doesn't come? What will I do? Because it seemed like it happened to every designer that I knew. And at United, and I still feel this way today, I could live multiple lifetimes, and I will never begin to finish all the art that's within me. And that is such a different way of understanding what creation is, because really creation should be limitless, in my opinion. So, and I would say that art continues to be the thing that always saves me in many ways. It's the conduit. I've always had the opinion that the creative spark was put there by God. It's been put there for me to nurture and take care of, but it's not of my own possession, or It's just something I am caretaker steward of a vessel. And I imagine at some point that spark will be passed on to another creative soul. That would be my ideal heaven, I guess.
Thank you all for sharing a little bit about your creativity over the years and how United has had an influence over that. If any of you, did you get a little piece of paper with some dots on it? Wilson Yates, we've talked about him a lot. He had a great influence over me at my time here. But he had an article called The Dialogical Approach, where the viewer has a conversation with the piece of art that they're looking at. And by doing that, then you in turn are having a conversation with the artist, whether the artist is present or not. And so we thought we would like you to take a little bit more time with a piece of art or several pieces of art beyond the superficial, oh, isn't that wonderful? Oh, that's great. To pieces that really speak to you, a little below the surface, just something you can't maybe articulate, but it's there, and put a dot on that label. You have 3 dots, so you can put 3 dots on, but on different pieces, only 1 dot per piece of art. And this isn't a sort of people's choice thing. It's not a vote. It's your experience with that art and how it speaks to you today, because it may speak to you differently tomorrow or not at all. So if you would do that, that would be great. Now, lastly, if those who submitted pieces of art for this exhibition, if you would please stand and be recognized. Thank you all. There are refreshments available for over on the table, and take a stroll down the gallery. I think Jennifer talked about the Praxis exhibition being separate from 60 at 60, but stroll down the gallery and let the art influence you.